Hey, Jim Page here, fly fishing for the rest of us. So, we're going to talk a little bit about, do you really need to tie your own flies? So, you've got your 5 weight, your 7 weight, your 9 weight, you've been practicing your casting, you've gone on some trips, you've maybe hired a guide, you've caught some fish, you've been somewhat successful. Then the next question is, why do people tie flies, and do I need to tie flies? Um, I started tying flies out of necessity. And the reason I say that, I'll show you a fly that really pushed me into tying flies. And it's a clouser that is pink on the bottom and a chartreuse on top. It's in conventional tackle, it's called the electric chicken. Back in the middle 90s, Berkeley made a power bait, curly tail grub. And my family lives in the coast of Georgia, we were catching a lot of trout and redfish and flounder on jig heads with that electric chicken grub. It was a Berkeley power bait. I mean, catching a lot of fish on it. It was kind of ridiculous. We didn't understand what in the world something that is pink and chartreuse looked like, even though those colors don't look the same underwater. We just knew caught a lot of fish. So in the middle to late 90s, when I started fly fishing a lot, I went into my local fly shop and said, "Do you have any clousers that are electric chicken?" And they looked at me like, "What's electric chicken?" At that time in Atlanta, that color combination had not come up off the coast and was not commonly known in the Atlanta area. I said, "Well, it's chartreuse and pink." And they basically laughed at me and said, "We don't know why anyone would want to use those color combinations." So you couldn't buy a chartreuse and pink clouser anywhere. And you couldn't buy them online. There wasn't even online shopping. Local fly shops didn't have it. It just wasn't a color combination that people even thought about using. It was always chartreuse and white, or white on white, or blue on white, or green on white, or tan on brown, or garnet on yellow. But pink and chartreuse was not a readily used color combination. I did have a small fly tying kit that the gentleman who introduced me to fly fishing proper helped me put together. It had a low end vise. It was a rotary vise. It was low end. Had a few bucktails, a few saddles, and a few strung neck hackles, some bead chain eyes, and some lead eyes. It all fit into a little Rubbermaid tote about that big, a little Rubbermaid utility box. And it just had a few of everything, but it had the basics. So I took that rather inexpensive vise that had gotten a little rust on it because I just never used it, and put a 2/0 hook in it and put some chartreuse and pink bucktail on it with lead eyes, and started catching fish. So from that time on, I started tying my own flies because I found a great amount of satisfaction tying my flies and then catching fish on flies that I had tied. Um, it just took my fishing to another level, and it allowed me to do a lot of different colors and variations that weren't readily available on the in fly shops or online catalogs. I probably could have hunted down people to special order them, but that would have been expensive. So this little fly here is why I started tying flies, and it was out of necessity, not out of really any kind of lofty goals. I will say that I don't think fly tying saves you money because you can end up getting a lot of fly tying materials. A really good fly tying vise is not inexpensive, but it will last you a lifetime. I have a fly tying vise that was expensive when I bought it. It is now over 20 years old and it still works just fine. And I'll use it for the next 20 years. And when I die, I'll give it to somebody else. It will last longer than two or three people. It's a very simple tool. It's made out of good quality stainless steel. The jaws are replaceable when they wear down. So um, fly tying vices can be expensive, but they're worth it in the long run, especially if you tie a lot of flies. Um, so, do I think you should tie your own flies? Yes. Do I think you need, 4 plastic tubs full of materials to tie your own flies? Not at the beginning. A few bucktails, a few feathers, some lead eyes, some bead chain eyes, some deer hair. Um, you can get into some other synthetic materials later if you want, craft fur, brushes. You can get pretty complex with this stuff. But to tie a basic selection of flies, you really don't need that much. Not at all. And I'll do another video with kind of like the basic selection of stuff that I started off with that my friend helped me put together in my little fly tying kit that I carried around, a little Rubbermaid utility tote, pretty small. And we'll go from there. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope y'all are out there getting it. Hope it's warming up where you're at. And I hope you're getting some fish. And remember, as always, keep your hook sharp. And I'll talk to you again soon.